Hi everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our third seminar in this year. We had first seminar was in February, and it was about slavery and Islam. We had our guest was Halvar Schön and Inger Lien. And in April we had a new seminar about blasphemy and Islam. Then we had a guest from France, Walid El-Husseini, and today we have another topic. And this is the causes rising reactions against Islam and the way forward and challenging we ex-Muslims meet every day. So just for orientation, my name is Cemal Knudsen Yücel. I'm the leader and the founder of Ex-Muslims of Norway. And another host today is our vice leader, Jeanette. Many of you know her, I think. And we have our honored guest from Sweden. He's Omar Makram. He's an Egyptian ex-Muslim anti-theist activist. And he's the founder of Ex-Muslims of Sweden, Sveriges Ex-Muslimer. So, we have made it a little bit changing in our seminar. We should have one lecture, and after that a conversation. But now we think we will have only conversation. Let's have a lecture inside the conversation. So maybe it will be more time for you to ask questions. So, welcome. And welcome, Omar.
Thank you very much.
And let's start with who is Omar Makram?
That's me. I come from Egypt, and now I have received, last year I received asylum in Sweden because of my views on religion, or more specifically on Islam. I'm an ex-Muslim and a critic of Islam and religion in general. And back in Egypt, we have blasphemy law, or it's officially called contempt of religion law, which makes it's a very toxic and dangerous atmosphere for atheists and or vocal atheists and people who leave Islam for ex-Muslims.
Okay, and how you became ex-Muslim? We can start there.
Yeah.
I'm very interested because every time when I meet with some ex-Muslims, wherever, and I ask first, why you left Islam? And always we have similar thing. Always. Like more we read and we go out of Islam. Or some of us say, I shamed myself out of Islam because it was a shame to call myself as Muslim when I learned the most horrible things with the Islam, in the Islam name and the history and theology. So how about you?
Yeah, I think one important thing to keep in mind is that the vast majority of Muslims, they take religion out of inheritance, not out of conviction. So they just are born into it. They don't think much about it. They just listen to what their parents are saying, what society is telling them. They don't question it much. And that was the case for me in the beginning. And but I think it was my father who inadvertently made me an atheist, although he would really, really dislike it if I say that. But he, since a very young age, he encouraged me to read a lot. And I would say this developed within me some kind of critical mind, or like so it was difficult for me to take things just like that. This is what you're supposed to believe. For me, I needed to think about everything, and at some point I was okay. Now I need to know what this religion that is that I'm supposed to that I believe in, and that our society is built upon. I want to really understand it. I want to know it. I want to see the arguments for it. And I approached that with a very pro-Islam attitude, actually. Like, I wanted to confirm my beliefs. So basically, I got the books, the Quran, the Hadith, the Seerah, and I started to study all that. And the language also is like, Arabic is my mother tongue, but the language still of the Quran and so on, it's pretty still difficult. So I really got down to the exact meanings of words and when the verses were, what incidents the verses were like sent in and so on. And for me, I found so much contradiction within the hadith, even the Sahih hadith, so to speak, that hadith is the sayings and actions of the recorded sayings and actions of Muhammad, and it's a very important part of the Sunni faith. I grew up in a Sunni family. So at some point, I was, okay, there are like some hadith that are contradicting each other, and some of the hadith are also contradicting some of what's in the Quran. And then some others, like, okay, if they are contradicting the Quran, then they are not authentic, but they are saying that they are authentic, so this didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And I was like, how am I supposed to, like, what argument is that? And then I decided, okay, let's set aside the hadith totally. So I became a Quranist, which is also some sort of blasphemy. Like, already you'll be considered an ex-Muslim if you became a Quranist. Like, if you just like were relying only on the Quran for your faith.
Like Rashad Khalifa, have you heard about him?
Rashad Khalifa, he's a Quranist as well.
He's Quranist, and he's from Egypt, and he had been murdered after Muslims realized that. You know, Rashad Khalifa is from Egypt, one Quranist person, and he come with the Quranic miracle.
Yeah.
19. In the 1978, maybe, he come with he's mathematician, and he proved that Quran is Allah's word because of, it has a code. It's number 19.
Yeah.
Every Muslim all over the world were very happy. And they said, he is the man. Yeah. But when they realized that he changed it, he removed one verse from Quran for proof for 19. And he had been murdered in Washington, in his mosque.
Yeah, so the formula was wrong.
So you was Quranist?
Yeah.
But you
I was not really, I did not follow that like because I was following somebody. This is like the only, I was, okay, if this is like the literal speech of God, then supposedly he should have said everything that he wanted to say. Yeah. So in the beginning it was also like a bit confusing for some people because, for example, I'll be fasting Ramadan, and Muslims, they break the fast at the adhan of Maghrib, and like Sunnis as well in Egypt. And in the Quran it says that you should break the fast when it becomes dark, which is a bit after the adhan, actually. So it's like 10, 15 minutes after the adhan. So I'll be sitting like at the table with everybody, and they're all like, the adhan comes and they'll be starting to eat, and I'll be like this weird guy sitting there not touching the food, and they'll be looking at me like, what's wrong with you? And I'll be like, but actually Allah said that you should wait until dark. And then they look at me like, what is that? Where did you get this from? And I was like, it's in the Quran. Haven't you read the Quran? And I was like, yeah, but this is not how we do it. And I was like, okay, you're wrong.
And what do you think in the Sweden or Norway, the Quranists have to wait very long time to break fast?
Yeah.
If you still be Quranist today.
Like Shia Muslims wait 10 minutes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And
after the Sunnis.
After the adhan?
Yes.
And if it's like further up north, like poor people in Iceland, I mean, like that's one of the surest ways to become ex-Muslim. I mean, like if I was like up there in the north and I have to fast like 23 hours a day, it's like, fuck that. Like, okay, let's get this over with. But after some time I also started to see that there are contradictions in the Quran itself. But also the Quran is not, it's not arranged in the chronological order. Like, if you would read the Quran and its like the verses in its chronological order, it would make much more sense, because there is significant difference between the verses that pertain to the period in Mecca and periods in Medina. Because first, in the period of Mecca, it had more of a peaceful, almost kind of hippie attitude in a way. Like, you have your religion and we have ours, and it's all peace and love and fun. And then afterwards, like when Muhammad migrated to Medina, then he started to be like a warlord, and the verses started to take also a militaristic form. That's reflecting what was happening at the time. So that was another discovery, and something that I also did not like very much, because then it makes this it makes it more difficult to take only the peace verses, so to speak, because there is something in the Quran that's called abrogation, that the verses that or nasakh, the verses that came later on, they would supersede the previous verses. And that makes it like, for example, like one of the last surahs in the Quran, At-Tawbah.
Yeah.
It's the most violent surah in the whole Quran. And then it's both. I started to reject Islam both based on rationality or like reason, but also on the basis of values. Because it's very difficult to reconcile the Islamic scripture with the values of a liberal democracy and the values of human rights that we want to have in our societies. Right. That I believe that these are the values we should have. It's very difficult to reconcile it with women's rights. It's very difficult to reconcile it with like the rights of LGBT people and all that. And this for me was also a problem, because I did not like that there was so much hate against people, or so much like oppression of women and so on. For me, it would be ridiculous that the final message that comes from this perfect God is that the husband should beat his disobedient wife, or that that Muhammad says that women are deficient in intelligence, and that no people will succeed if the ruler would be a woman, and all that. It's like, it's very difficult to have humanistic values and be like adhere to the Islamic scripture. So that was the part of the values, and also the part of with rational thinking. It's very difficult for me to believe that there is this an all-powerful God who could have created people in any way he want to, and an all-seeing God who basically knows everything that would supposedly happen until the end of times, and an all-loving God who loves those human beings more than anything. And then he creates human beings weak in order to sin because of the way he created them. And he also knows that. And then he gets angry because something that he created and he knows. And then even though he loves them so much, he sends them to burn in hell for eternity and suffer because of how he created. I was like, but this does not make no fucking sense. So that was also another aspect of why.
You said in a YouTube video that he sounds so human.
Yeah.
With all that jealousy and.
Yeah, he sounds. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He sounds like an angry, angry human being. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when you talk, I just remember many things what I felt in my life. The same almost, but just we have differences, like in other ex-Muslims. But when you say now, he knows everything, but he let it happen.
Yeah.
He like this was my biggest reason I left Islam, because of my mother had a very difficult life, and she's illiterate, and she's a real good Muslim spiritually. She's praying more than 5 times in a day. She's not watching TV, and she has never watched TV. Believe me or not, because he promised it to Imam when TV come first time in the village.
There's the devil inside.
Yeah, they will come and angels will go out of your house if you have TV. And she had violence from my father many times, and we were poor, and many other things. And she prayed. And I just think that why, if God, you know, qadar,
Qadar.
the destiny,
Fate, yeah.
fate, destiny. And in Islam, we have not just only 5 pillars of Islam. We have six pillars of Iman, faith. And one of them, you have to believe the destiny. So I just think, if it's my mother's destiny that she will live as a slave of my father and of her family, so what's the meaning? And God know, my father will hit her tomorrow of this time. And he is a bad man, and he will go to hell, and my mother is a super woman, and she will pray until she die, and she suffer in this world, but because she say...
And he will be the one who gets all the
Yeah.
versions in paradise.
Yes. What's the mean? When you ask this question to the Imam, if God my destiny is written, I will be a murderer, and I will be a bad man, I will go to the hell, and he will go to heaven. Why we are living right now? He know everything. He know everything what I will do, and I will left Islam in 2000 and this day and this, like this thing. And this is...
Yeah,
When I was in the mosque, Nahmat Ali Shah,
Yeah.
when I was wearing a wire, he said that to me too, that if it is decided by God, it is going to happen.
Yeah.
Your faith is already decided. You don't have free will.
Yeah. And if you want to be a slave, then you have to believe Islam. Then you call yourself slave. I believe that, every Muslims. Because, critical thinking, like you say, I believe in common sense, and I think everybody have the common sense. They just need critical thinking and read. When I say people have to read Islamic sources like Hadith, Sirat, and Quran, someone asked me, yeah, but mullahs read too, and jihadis read too. Yeah, but they have no critical thinking, and I hadn't too.
Yeah.
So you have to...
Well, I think also for me, it's something that's one of the main sources of confusion that I've found in the West is on the topic of Islam and Muslims, is that a lot of people confuse both as one and the same thing. They conflate Islam as a set of ideas, a religion, an ideology, and Muslims as people. And so sometimes, for example, I'm in Sweden criticizing Islam, and then somebody will say, yeah, but why do you hate Muslims? And I don't hate Muslims. I was not talking about Muslims. And for them, they use the two words almost interchangeably to mean the same thing. And this is something that it has been very damaging to the dialogue, and because then you single out this one ideology and say this is something that you cannot criticize. It's very like I have a similar experience in Egypt and in Sweden in this particular point, but in Egypt they call it blasphemy. In Sweden they call it Islamophobia, which is a very problematic term because it does not make the distinction between Muslims and Islam. And yeah, that's why it's really important to keep criticizing the ideas. Yeah.
I agree. And we will come back to this, but I just want to now know. And you became an atheist in Egypt, and you have to left Egypt, and you came to Sweden. What happened after that?
After that, yeah. When I first came, I applied for asylum in Sweden, and then they basically said that, well, we acknowledge that ex-Muslims or people who leave Islam and people who criticize Islam are being persecuted in Egypt, but we don't necessarily believe that you have left Islam. And I was like, how? And yeah, even had like social media activity and so on. And they said, yeah, but maybe this social media activity is photoshopped. And I was like, but you can go online and see it. But so it was like some of the most ridiculous reasons. And they said that you have not been able to provide us proof that the Egyptian authorities are aware of your views. And I was like, yeah, but they cannot like file for like a document from the embassy that they know about my views. That would be also ridiculous. So I appealed the rejection, and it went to court, and then I was rejected again for similar reasons. And then I was going to be deported. And then I was like, but how can I prove to them beyond doubt that I'm no longer a Muslim and provide them proof that the Egyptian authorities are aware of my views? So I said, I thought that what would be the only thing that a Muslim would ever do? And then I went on video and talked about my views and talked about the situation in Egypt and my case and like the situation of the ex-Muslims in Muslim-majority countries and all that. And then I desecrated a copy of the Quran on video to prove that I have left Islam. And then I decided to send this video to the migration authority in Sweden.
And you burn it, correct?
Yeah. And I decided to send that video to them along with the Egyptian embassy in Sweden, the Egyptian foreign ministry, and the Egyptian interior ministry, all in the same email. So now you have the proof here. They know. Yeah. And at first it was because I've been advised by some people that maybe I should send them to like migration board privately first, because people like really who were aware of my case, they really freaked out. They said, okay, well, this is like maybe you will get asylum, but we don't know if you will live long enough to enjoy it, even in Sweden. And they said, okay, maybe you can like send it to them privately first. So I did, and then the migration authorities then afterwards they couldn't open the link for some reason. I think they didn't have. They have like real technical problems. And so I said, they said that we could not open the link, so I sent it to them on a USB stick. They lost it, but and then they were like, yeah, you said that you have not that you have sent this USB stick and we couldn't find it. So I put it on YouTube, but unlisted, so only people whom I provide with the link can see it. Then they still rejected it again. They said, yeah, but the video has too few views. And since we didn't, we could not see the link in the first email, that means that the Egyptians couldn't see it either. And I was like, what kind of logic is that? Anyways, but so I made the video public and I pushed it on social media, and it's got so much traction. Then I made some more videos, and they also got a lot of views. And I have written some articles and so on, and then I applied again. And I was given, based on that, refugee status in Sweden.
Congratulations. It's good.
Thank you very much.
It's good. It's very sad. You know, we are laughing, but it's very sad. If you were a mullah, you had get asylum in a moment in Sweden. I promise you. If you had a long beard and a mullah dress, you get this. You know,
it's very disturbing. I think that for men it is this hard to prove that they don't believe in Islam anymore. A girl can just grab the first white guy she sees and kiss him and skaffe. It's all over.
But it was the greatest idea, I think, because if someone asked me, prove me you are ex-Muslim, because they don't believe whatever I tell them, it's the greatest idea, but the most dangerous idea. Yeah. We have seen, if you remember, in Afghanistan, Farkhunda Malikzadeh, the woman being lynched, tortured, and burned because of she had been accused of she burned Quran. She didn't, but she was accused. If you see the video on YouTube, I don't recommend you. Don't see.
That's horrible.
And the other one, Pastor Terry Jones, when he burned Quran in United States, we saw the reactions in all over the world, not just in the Islamic country. People get crazy. So you have to take care of yourself. It was courage. You
I,
had the courage.
I think, yeah, for me, it's like my freedom is much more important than my safety. So if I'm in Egypt, I'll be deprived of both my freedom and my safety. So at least now I have my freedom and a good bit of my safety, I think. Nothing has happened here so far.
This
so
is
it's
my
okay.
kind of ex-Muslim, I think. This is my kind of. And now you are, and you choose to be an activist.
Yeah.
And you didn't give up after you get asylum and just go on and live your life,
No.
anti-theist life. But
I think-
what are you doing?
Yeah, I think like for me also, like I was open to some extent with my beliefs as well before, but after the video and after like people on social media have seen my case and so on, I got like a lot of reach out from ex-Muslims all around the world, in like many places, like even from Pakistan and like so many countries, telling me privately, like, thank you for having the courage to say that. We cannot do it. Like, it's like these countries, you can be lynched and mob lynched just by not being pious enough or not being Muslim enough. So, and I saw how much it meant to so many ex-Muslims around the world, that it's just inspired me to become an activist for the cause of ex-Muslims, and I decided to. This is why I decided to found the ex-Muslims of Sweden, Sveriges Ex-Muslimer.
Is there many of them? Have you met? It's newly. You have
Yeah,
started. with this?
it's relatively new. Well, like it has been less than 2 years, and the thing is, like when I started to write I write articles in English and they are translated in Swedish. I got also like a lot of feedback and a lot of ex-Muslims in Sweden reaching out to me, and then I discovered that even in Sweden, life was difficult for ex-Muslims, and this was something that for me, like for example, one guy contacted me. He's an ex-Muslim and he's also gay, and he like a young guy, he lived with his family, and his father is a member of Hizb ut-Tahrir, an Islamist organization that calls for the execution of apostates, people who leave Islam, and he had to like talk to me, and I was like listening to him and how he confronted his father one time. Of course, he's in the closet, but how he confronted his father one time about how is this a good thing to kill people who leave their religion. And I was imagining how difficult it is for him to hear his father saying, that people who leave their religion should be killed. And so many more people, like for the vast majority of the people in the group, it's difficult for them to be publicly, to say publicly that they have left their religion because of the consequences. So this shows that there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, and it's good we have you in Sweden. Ninrock, Najanet, well, you choose to stand up as ex-Muslim not long before ago, maybe 2-3 years. No, like ex-Muslim activist. You are ex-Muslim, but
Well, I left Islam a long time ago.
long time.
But like he said, the first step, usually, for a Muslim who is starting to think critically, is to leave the hadiths. And then look at the Quran and say, is it good without the hadiths? Is it, valuable without the hadiths?
Understandable.
Because my father left the hadiths. And he started to be... it wasn't that dangerous in Pakistan when he left the hadiths to say it out loud that you don't practice the Sunni way anymore. But it wasn't popular, and you had to just stay mostly quiet about it. But it got me thinking. So growing up reading with the first chapter in Quran, it is Surah Jinn. It is all about black magic and demons and nonsense. And it wasn't exactly a lot to just believe. There was no proof. You just had to believe. Me, I lived the life of an ex-Muslim for a very long time before I started to say that I am not a Muslim. I am not religious. I wanted to believe that Islam perhaps wasn't to blame. I wanted to believe that the translations were wrong. I wanted to believe that the imams were just assholes trying to make money by making people miserable, power, politics, all that. But sadly, it's impossible. When you have read it with translation and you see it practiced in the Muslim countries, you realize that the Quran orders you to follow Muhammad, and there is not exactly a lot of examples of Muhammad, so the hadiths come in handy. So you just create the hadiths you need to make it seem like you are following Muhammad. It imprisons you. You look for excuses. If you are a Muslim for some reason, you're still a Muslim because you don't want your family to hate you for some reason, you will lie. You will try to excuse Islam, and you will have to find someone else to blame, and it's usually the non-Muslim. So I did not want to blame anyone else for my choices. I wanted to take responsibility. Because Islam doesn't let you take responsibility. That's Islam criticism. That's not allowed. So to me, taking responsibility, being honest, was to admit that I am not a Muslim because Islam is wrong. So that I lived it. I practiced it for a long time before I met you.
You had a hijab?
No, I used to wear a chadar. Hijab is a very modern construction. It is a political thing in long traditional ways in hot countries. It's very normal to try to hide your face so you don't get sunburned. They didn't have sunscreen in the way they do now. So it was supposed to make a woman still cover herself up, but not like this modern hijab that is supposed to be so mobile. But yeah, you were suppressed. You had to cover yourself up because it comes to the demeaning of a female existence through sexualizing her, looking at her as just a sex object, and never letting her have any freedom. Even more romanticized through the life after death for Muslims, because then they will get these everlasting virgins who turn into virgins. They have no experience the day after you have molested them. So experienced woman, a woman who remembers what last night was like, that's not ideal for a Muslim man. So it's just so imprisoning in a hellish feeling. You feel guilt, and you feel victim mentality, and you aren't allowed to do anything about it because that would be taking responsibility. I took responsibility. That automatically makes you an infidel. So
And now you're standing up and give courage to others.
take responsibility.
Yes. And maybe I'm a little bit disagree. Sure, it's working only Quran. It's studying Quran and put the hadith beside. But I mean, is the most important one is you have to read the hadith and the sirat, Muhammad's life. Because Quran is very difficult book. Like you said, you cannot understand Quran without Muhammad. If you put Muhammad out, Islam is die. Islam is gone. So you have to know. And and there is horrible hadiths and sirat. If you read, then you will understand why this verse is come in this time and why this verse is. You have to put Muhammad at the center. If you want to know the truth, you have to know who was Muhammad.
Yeah.
Quran is Muhammad, his word.
But,
So,
yeah, I want to just like something just came to my mind now when you were saying about like the guilt and the negative attitude towards sexuality and all that, and that's, I would say it's much more when it comes to women, because it's like the female body that is sinful and so on. But one thing that I remember very clear, and this is like why I'm really also against the religious indoctrination of children. So one thing that I remember clearly when it came to this, like the negativity about sexuality and this guilt tripping, so to speak, it was about masturbation, because in the hadith, it's like one of the hadith says that when you masturbate, your hand will you will be like resurrected with your hand pregnant on Judgment Day, and everybody will be like, and I was told that, and I was like, every time I did it, I was like, damn it, no, it's like, I don't know if this was the time that my hand got pregnant or what.
Your father again.
And yeah, so.
But it's okay. But just I want to put something, and then we go to a little bit politics and the West, and what's the challenging that we meeting every day, and how it's difficult to be an ex-Muslim in the West. You know, in the East, like Egypt, for example, yesterday, our organization and all other ex-Muslims organization, first of all, Mariam Namazi with the ex-Muslims of Britain, and all other one, Atheist Republic, ex-Muslims of North America, ex-Muslims of France, Morocco, everyone, we made it one petition to save Sharif Gaber. He's an atheist blogger in Egypt, and now he get arrested while he tried to flee from the airport from Cairo in 2nd of May, and with 27 other bloggers, atheist bloggers. And this is they are persecuted there. They're risking their lives. Like in Pakistan, our friends Ayaz Nizami, we think he will get death sentences, and he get arrested 7 months ago. And in Turkey, in the same situation. But in the West, what's the problem in the West? And just one thing more, like we get messages from ex-Muslims in Norway, from Bodø, from north of Norway, middle of Norway, all over. And I will publish one day, soon. Just I have to delete their names and pictures first. Some, for example, say, he's from Palestine, he has been in Norway 15 years. But he pressures us that we are doing this, but he can't still. And he's supporting us. The other one say, can I come to your seminar without I say, I will, on the arrangement on Facebook, you know, many like these situations we have. So we are trying to build in community, helping them. If we stand out, like we're doing here and you're doing there, many more people will get courage to stand up, and then we normalize, then it will not be a problem. But we have challenges, like you say. What about Zambia?
Well, what about Mozambique? Yeah.
Mozambique, it was Mozambique.
Yeah.
They don't know, but can you please, because I heard on one podcast you talking about that.
Yeah, that was a funny situation, but it kind of like portrays an example of the nature of the dialogue when it comes to criticism of Islam. So I was at a party one time, and then I was saying things that I'm just saying now, and when it comes to my view of Islam, and one girl who belongs to the left party in Sweden, she just got upset by what I was saying, and she was like, why do you hate Muslims? Why are you attacking Muslims? And I was like, when did I mention Muslims at all in what I'm saying? Like, I was just talking about Islam, and there's a difference between Islam as a set of ideas and Muslims as people.
And apostates.
And she was saying, no, but why are you not talking about Christianity? I was like, why would I'm like an ex-Muslim from Egypt. What do I, like, why would I talk about Christianity? She's like, no, you have to talk about all religions, or otherwise you're unfair. I was like, I have to talk about all religions? She said, yeah. So I have to like talk about like Hinduism and Buddhism, and like, she was like, yeah, but this is how you have to be fair and balanced. I was like, well, you can criticize Christianity if you want to. Like, I will support you as well, but I don't have the time or knowledge or energy to like see like every religion and talk about it. And she was like, yeah, but and then I started to talk to her like about like what's happening to ex-Muslims in Muslim majority countries, how they're being persecuted, jailed, or killed, and so on. And I was like, really being passionate about it, like speaking about the cause and stuff. And then she just looked at me, and as if she was just with a blank face. And then she said, what about Mozambique? And I was like, what? What Mozambique? What do you mean? I was like, really, I don't understand. She was like, why are you not talking about Mozambique? And I was like, why would I talk about Mozambique? I don't get you. And she was like, yeah, but there's like Christians who leave their religion, they are being killed. And I was like, yeah, I'm an ex-Muslim from Egypt. Like, I don't know about Mozambique. And, you can talk about it if you want. And this is, by the way, this is fake news. I checked.
Yes.
There's no Christians being killed for leaving their religion in Mozambique. But yeah, so this is like happens quite often. They have this like kind of like knee-jerk reaction to try to defend Islam because confronting this in Sweden, I started to like try to get to the bottom of it and understand what is this? Like, because for me, like religious, like conservatism is our right, like the right-wing ideologies and the ideology in the country is where we come from. And it was for me, I got involved with the left a little bit when I first came to Sweden, but then they didn't like when I started to say the things that I was like, I got confused. I thought these would be like our allies in a way. But how? I think this is like a combination of like they fused several ideologies together that, first of all, that has racialized Islam, treats Islam as a race. And by virtue of you criticizing Islam, you already branded a racist. And then there is this term Islamophobia again that conflates both Islam and Muslims. And they have like all these, they have weaponized these accusations so that if you start to talk about these things, like you're a racist, Islamophobe, or and so on. And also they have an obsession. They see the world only through the lens of power structures and power dynamics. So everything for them is like an oppressor and an oppressed. Yeah. An oppressor group and oppressed groups. And they put like the oppressor as the white man, basically, white people, and the oppressed group is Muslims. Then that makes them very, very hostile towards any criticism that has to do with this group, their beliefs, their culture, anything of the sort, even if these values contradict with the values that they claim they stand up for. Like for example, one of the most confusing things is like the most supposedly pro-gay rights people could have no problem at all with being like with ultra friends with and allies of ultra-conservative people who believe that homosexuality, homosexual relationships should be punishable, or that they believe that that the Quran says that a man should beat his disobedient wife, and so on. So it leads to this kind of moral confusion and this kind of like cultural and moral relativism, where they started to basically saying that they are not in a position to judge the values of this group. And this is what's causing this confusion.
You know, now he reminds me, I didn't mention that today, but I feel I have to say. You say homophile and the left. Yesterday, one person, Norwegian atheist, not Jehovah's Witness, but Smith's friends, ex-Smith's friends. And he's homophile and he's atheist, and he's with his project leader for one organization, which organization gets 5 million kron from state. He's project leader. And he writing on ex-Muslims Facebook page, why are you spreading hatred? I say, we have shared more than 2,000 publishing in 2.5 years. Show me one example that we are promoting hatred against Muslims. I stand each of our publications behind. And he couldn't. And then he said, yeah, but show me one positive publishing, positive about Islam or Muslims. You just showing the negative sides of Muslims and Islams. But my friends, I hope you hear. In 400 years, you atheist people in West criticizing Christianity, criticizing pastors, criticizing everyone. No problem. And you never show, if you just Google an atheist and one organization after another, you will never see one positive thing about Christianity. We are activists. We know people, there are Muslim people who call themselves Muslim, is very good and ignore Islam, not practicing like ISIS or Saudi Arabia, but we know there is real Muslims like ISIS, like Saudi Arabia, practicing Islam. I say that because I know Islam. Islam mean, for me, the books, the Muhammad's life. And Muslim mean the person who follow Muhammad, not the hypocrites, not the majority of Muslims. They are not Muslims. We can debate about it, but I get just angry because when you say, and these people in the West, they get money from the state, they stand with the left, they are homophile, they're criticizing Christianity still today, and they ridicule Jesus every day, but they never dare to make a movie or caricature about Muhammad and publish in every cinema, not the media even. This is hypocrisy.
No, I agree with you. Like there is like some hypocrisy when it comes to like how it's much easier to criticize Christianity than it is to Islam, than it is to criticize Islam. And it's true that people who have been trying to like have a secular state and so on have criticized Christianity so much. We maybe disagree a little bit about like the point of the point of like Muslims, because for me it's like Muslim is anyone who says like Shahada, like that he believes in Allah and that Muhammad is his prophet. And it's from my experience, it's like a lot of Muslims, they don't reflect Islam.
They don't know nothing.
No, they don't reflect it that much. So this is why I'm like much more reluctant to criticize Muslims, and yeah, for me it's I just focus on Islam the whole time. But it's actually true about what you're saying, that a lot of Muslims, they again, because they took it out of inheritance, not out of conviction. I have a Muslim friend back in Sweden, and she's like conservative and everything, and she was like wearing hijab, and like when we go to parties, and she knows that I'm an ex-Muslim and atheist and I don't like Islam, but she comes to me and says, Omar, is this haram in Islam? Can I do this or not? And then I tell her, no, for example, you should not do this or should not. Then she goes to my friends and jokes. When I want to know something about Islam, I ask Omar. She knows it better than I do. It's like, yeah.
But what do you think? You know, you should...
It's just, you can criticize every Muslim in the world without any problem, as long as you say what you're criticizing has nothing to do with Islam. It's just culture. It's honor killings, or it's the lack of freedom for women, or education, or whatever there is wrong happening to some Muslims. You can criticize it, you can criticize their families, their ancestry, everything, and the government will pay you to spread this message as long as you say it has nothing to do with Islam. But when you criticize the scripture, even though you have criticized no Muslims, they will call you Muslim hater or racist.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
While the government is trying to fake the idea that we are removing bad habits from the Muslim culture, they are giving imams and mosques lots and lots of money to radicalize youth all over. And this is actually basically a business model. A lot of people are making money. It's their bread and butter to protect the horrifying religion of the underdog. If the majority was Muslim, perhaps they would treat it differently. But because it came from outside, and because anti-racists need victims, that's why they're protecting it, because they're making money on other people's misery. Some of them are genuinely concerned and want to protect people because they are indoctrinated to not include them as human beings. They have learned to look at them as victims. It's not equal treatment. It's the worst kind of racism, actually. So if they think I am a Muslim hater, they are making money on Islam being here.
Yeah, actually, that's. I quite often also like get people who tell me like, no, this is not a problem with Islam. This is like Muslims are the problem, and they think that this is like a good position to have. And I say actually my position is quite the opposite of your position. I'm not saying Muslims are the problem. It's Islam. Like the ideas are the problem.
I'm totally agree. They say, the many apologists special, they say that it's nothing to do with Islam. This is politics and power. And people, imams, they say actually the people is problem. They spreading hatred.
Yeah, for me this is...
They say the Saddam is problem, or his man is problem, or mullah in Iran, they are problem. Nothing to do with...
Or Muslims are not practicing Islam in a...
Yeah, and we're saying opposite. We're saying many Muslims not aware of it. They ignore Islam.
Yeah.
They don't have knowledge about Islam. They're just cultural. You can meet in the pub with some Mid-Eastern faces and say them hello, and he drinking beer, and you say, are you Muslim? He will say, I'm Muslim. Like this Islam we have today. But my question is, when we talk about special, because I see one of the biggest challenges we have some ex-Muslim movements and activists, the political left. This is the reality in the West. And the political left have serious problems to criticizing Islam.
Yeah.
But they have no problem to criticizing Christianity or Christians. Because nobody can tell me that in 400 years, all the Western people criticizing only the theology of Christianity. This is bullshit. There is people, and no one spreading hatred against Christians. You know, what do you think?
Yeah.
Why they do that?
Criticizing theocracy is criticizing the Muslim leaders right now, like it was criticizing the priesthood before.
Yeah, I would say it's like I also don't like to even though this phenomena exists almost only on the left, but there have been some people also on the left who, especially the older generations, who don't subscribe to this identity politics and cultural relativism segment of the left. This is much more popular with the younger generation. I met people in the left, like the older generation, they say, we don't like religion, we don't understand what's going on. But the younger ones, they are the ones who started to really put this oppressor versus oppressed and identity politics, and only people from that group should speak on behalf of it, and all that. And this is where the confusion is coming, like the identitarian left. And it's true also about this leads to something that's called the bigotry of low expectations, to hold people to lower standards. So for example, we have imams in Sweden that describe themselves as conservative. They say they believe in Sharia, and that if there's a contradiction between Sharia and the Swedish law, they would follow Sharia. And they all say all these things publicly, and still the politicians go to them as representatives of the Muslim community. And this is in a way, it's even almost racist. You are defining the whole Muslim community by the most conservative people in it to speak on its behalf. The Muslim community does not want an imam who says that we should put Sharia above Swedish law to speak on their behalf. But the politicians go to that guy, and they think that this guy will fight radicalization. And I was like, what? How are you thinking about it? It's totally crazy. And recently there was a big reportage on ex-Muslims in Sweden, by one of the largest newspapers there, Dagens Nyheter, and they had interviews with people in our group and to talk about how their lives are in Sweden and things like that, and portraying how difficult it is. And they went, including to that imam, and other imams in Sweden. They talked to them about this. And the imam said, yeah, well, it's the punishment for apostasy is death in Islam. And that guy, he said that in a perfect Islamic state, the punishment, he said, should not be done in Sweden, but in a perfect Islamic state, like people who leave Islam should be killed. And this was good enough for them.
Yeah.
As long as he doesn't want it in Sweden, but the idea that in the perfect Islamic state, apostates should be killed, that's okay. Later on, when we criticize what he said, he and other conservative Muslims, they're attacking the Imam, hatred, Islamophobia. And it's but you're saying that in the perfect state I should be killed, and then when I protest, you're saying hatred and Islamophobia. It's this was really strange.
And of course, I didn't mention all people from the left is against the ex-Muslim movement, but the biggest problem, the majority of them, and Majid Nawaz calling them regressive-left, and you calling them
identitarian left.
you're calling them leftist extremists.
Oh, yeah, that too. They can go by many names, but they are extremists in my opinion.
It's like when Douglas Murphy says we need to be honest, people cringe or start laughing, because honesty has no room in a forced faith, and Islam is forced, and for some reason our politicians seem to think it's a good idea to let this radicalization keep spreading, and honesty and critical thought will just remove itself and people will be easier to control, I suppose. And I think we should take their bread and butter. The more we open up, the more they are going to lose, those who are trying to take control over the freedom of thought through this process of radicalization through mosques. I used to, in the very beginning when I started to work against this forced marriage practice, this arranged marriage practice, my message was really simple and it was clear. And it was that Muslims are allowed to lie to the non-believers.
You have to say not all Muslims. This is the number one law.
Muslims are allowed to lie. Yeah. They're allowed to lie, and they cannot take responsibility. They are not allowed to blame Islam with death penalty. So they will lie to you. And I went into the mosques to prove that the imams are lying. They will say one thing to you and another to the Muslims, and still it's keep going on. They're allowed to lie. They are lying.
How many years ago you was in mosque with
it was in 2002.
Microphone? 2002. Yeah. Everybody is forget that because this is not important, and these imams still have job.
The thing is, when Muslim spokespeople, they come and are representatives of Muslims, like Qadri from Pakistan. They sound so liberal and so including, and they love freedom. And when they are talking to their own people, like Qadri, they are spreading hate against people who are homosexuals, which is nobody else's business but their own. And instead of accepting that a personal life is a personal life, we are fueling with all our money and all our power in people who are making you turn against each other everywhere. You are turning against gay, you're turning against women, you're turning against people who believe something different than you. And when it explodes everywhere, they say it has nothing to do with the source that has been given a lot of money to spread this hatred and be the representative of big communities.
Yeah, I think also there's the argument also starts to fall apart pretty quickly if you would say if for anybody who, especially for non-Muslims who say that Islam is good and it depends on how you interpret it and so on, then if an ideology is good, that means that its most fundamentalists, like if it was a peaceful ideology, that adhering to the the fundamentals of it. Like if you would be a fundamentalist of a peaceful ideology, then you would be the most peaceful person of that ideology, and that is not the case with Islam. Like a fundamentalist is not a good thing, but why? If the religion is good, why?
Right.
And that's one thing. And if Islam is so good, why don't we have Islam as the law? Why would we just not have Islam rule the country? If it's so good, why Islamism is a bad thing then?
Now I will come with Arabia conspiracy theory. Why we are not waiting? Why we are waiting 40 or 50 years to become Islamic State? Why we don't get now?
But, if it's a good thing, why not?
But the problem is Islam is the biggest topic in the West today, and we know there is a causes of rising reactions against Islam, and this I want to ask you. What? Although I know that because of Islamic terror. But why it's this? Why politicians can't see that there is a rising reactions, not only from the right, but from the left and from the minorities inside the Muslim communities, and the reactions there in the West. What do you think? Because today, it was not like this 30 years ago.
No.
But today is different.
I don't think they were sending imams to asylums to grasp the attention of asylum seekers right away for 30 years ago. They're doing that now.
Yeah, I would say it's only logical that that when you have I'm not anti-immigration first of all, but it's only logical if you have groups of people from certain places. They would be representative of a culture that exists over there, and a lot of people who are identity politics left, they refuse to say that there is anything that has to do with religion or culture when it comes to something like that. So for me, this is ridiculous. So, for example, if we would say that in here in Norway or in Sweden, the view of women in society is the same as it is in Egypt, that would be an objectively false statement. Egypt, for example, has a huge problem with sexual harassment. It was even documented in the Human Rights Watch report. Or that if you would say that the view of LGBT people, it's equal in so there is no any cultural or religious factor. So the view of LGBT people in Egypt is equal to that in Sweden. If that's the case, for example, if we had a referendum on same-sex marriage before same-sex marriage was legalized, and I tell people if that was the case, let's have a referendum on same-sex marriage and get 50 million people from Egypt to vote as well with you. Do you think that referendum would pass? And then this is also where the argument starts to look shaky. It's mostly a clash of values. Values that are... You have the values of liberal democracies and equality that exist in the West, and these values are not compatible with Islam, basically. And then you have this clash, and it causes friction, and causes this kind of otherization of us and them, and problems start to happen, and people get upset, and then the left wants to protect the people who are being attacked, and so it causes this mess. Yeah. A clash in values.
I agree with you, and I think the simple answer is maybe in Europe and in the West, people know much more about Islam today and before. And they have in their neighborhood violence against women, female genital mutilation, child hijab, forced marriage, honor killings, honor culture. Everything is now they have in their neighborhood. But before, They didn't care. They come, some from Muslim countries, some from there, some from here, working, and they have family, they have their culture, and they have their hijab. It was not...
Also so visible, maybe.
Yeah, it didn't affect the society too much. So this is, I think, because, you know, some people moving from some of the part of the cities, ethnical Norwegians or ethnical Swedish people, like in Malmö, for example, some places no-go zone, we are calling here, but the special Swedish politicians not agree with us. But things happening, and things is very different today and 30 years ago. And this is normal. And then we need to find answers. We need to find solutions. And we are here, and they all time say, if something will happen, some reformation, so-called reformation in Islam, it have to come from inside. Who are they? What they mean?
They are not allowed to be honest.
Yeah,
but
I agree with you. And but the solution, what do you think? What's going to happen in the future, and what we have to do?
I think it's important to have dialogue. This is what we have, is to use our freedom of speech to criticize bad ideas. And it's important to have an honest and clear dialogue, and there's a problem both with censorship to some extent, but more with self-censorship. People are afraid to speak. People are afraid of being called racist or Islamophobe and all these things. And we need to have a dialogue, to get together and understand, okay, maybe this is not something that we should, like this kind of like religious conservatism is not something that we want to have in society.
And you mean it's everyone? Dialogue with everyone.
Dialogue with, yeah, but that's actually like to go back to that funny conversation I had at that party. Like in the end of the conversation, that girl with the what about Mozambique? She was saying, like, okay, maybe I agree with you, but don't you think that the racists will use what you're saying?
Exactly.
And I told her, actually, the racists are using you, because if you would single out one ideology, and you can talk about anything, criticize anything but Islam. If you single out one ideology and one religion for protection, if you stigmatize the dialogue about it, if you try to shut down any criticism of it, then actually you will pass the dialogue wholly and exclusively to the far right. And the only people who will be daring to speak about it, or who will be speaking about it, are people who maybe talk about it in a way that's not very rational. But then everybody who wants to hear it, to listen to it being spoken about, will go to them. And then you have already lost. And this is a very important point. So we need to have a balanced, rational dialogue about the problems that come from this kind of like conservatism. And I think this is the way forward. And also to really drop cultural and moral relativism. If we want to have a society where everyone has equal value, equal rights, then we have to understand that there are certain fundamental values that we want to have in our society. And this is something that it sounds to some people good, but at the same time it provokes opposition for some reason. Like when I talk about, I say I want assimilation of fundamental values, like certain ground values. Like when it comes to women's rights, LGBT rights, free speech and all that, these are values that we cannot compromise on. These are values that you cannot say, okay, maybe this is your culture, we will offer you some, relaxed measures when it comes to these things. No, this is not how it goes. Like something that I say is that while everyone is of equal value and everyone is welcome, but not all ideas and values are of equal values, and not all of them should be welcome in the society. And this is something that everybody should just try to understand and work for.
This is the biggest problem. The most important values of Europe is free speech, but then we have to include everyone. You cannot just say this people are racist. These people are not racist. Or something, racist. I never meet some racists in my life. Still, in Norway, when we talk about ethnic Norwegian, this means not that we have no racists in Norway. Maybe.
Yeah.
But I know in Turkey we have many racists. I know them. They are racist. But in Norway, I meet with racism one time in my life, and she was she born and raised in Norway by her Turkish family.
Yeah.
She was racist against me. So it's the only time. So I think, this you're saying it's most important thing, I think, because of the solution is there. If the state and media and politicians accept everyone that they can talk. Talking is not killing. Yes. They can without they get like we are Islamophobe. We promoting hatred, and we are bitter ex-Muslims. No, somebody say bitter, I'm not bitter to Muslims. I'm just bitter because of unjust happening down there in my family, and it's happening here. This is, accusation. This is the biggest problem, and they don't. They like NRK, Norwegian State TV. They are trying to make us invisible from day one. The movement ex-Muslim. It was historical day. In 40 years, we had migration and from the Muslim countries, and they have many sects, many mosques, many organizations. They are not just only one sort. And they were in all debates all this year, on the TV, on the newspapers, but nobody asked, where is the dissidents, the ex-Muslims?
Yeah.
And when this happened in 2016, we were here, me, Walid, and Lily, and Esteen. It was historical day. Only net avisen in this day. We had contact, and they come here. Here should be politicians from the left, from the right, and why they didn't want to hear what these people say? Why is ex-Muslim? And we're trying to explain. I think in the future, solution is ex-Muslims movement. They have to stop having imams or mullahs from 7th century as dialogues partner and community leaders.
Yeah, sure.
But they have to choose the people from 21st century.
Yeah.
I just also want to just point out this, that many debates and conversations in which you are met with racist or Islamophobe and walls like that is from people who have lost the ability to argue, to represent their deep meaning. They just sound disturbed in their determination of what they want to achieve. And while they say we shouldn't close borders and we shouldn't have walls, they are investing a lot of energy in identity politics and shaming people for their ideas if they are not agreeing. We need to break down the walls of words and just start having those arguments and start having those discussions and open up. It's the only way we can become someone who don't actually need the actual walls and the actual borders. Because right now, I want to lock every door because it has become a very disturbing place, because right now it seems like people who want to raise their views of identity politics don't know how to argue for their points. They are just confusing themselves and confusing you, and they end conversations with Islamophobe and racist. And I used to be called a whore, and I used to be threatened by my own father. I was so scared that he was going to murder me every single day. So racist and Islamophobe doesn't do anything. I just hope you realize that it will only get worse if we don't start openly to ignore these labels and start really talking about the deep meaning of what's going on. If we don't, it's going to end up in the situations where women who are standing up for themselves will be demeaned.
But they are already like within like it's manifesting in the problem of honor culture. Like this is something that's very visible in Sweden, for example. Yeah, but yeah.
It's just words right now mostly, and it's gonna get worse if the parties that are being violent more and more and aren't learning to actually just accept some criticism. If they keep moving forward with this behavior, it's not gonna go very pleasantly. It's not gonna be peace.
No. And you are totally right. Also, like again, like one of the things that we should do is like really get rid of this term Islamophobia. This is a toxic and problematic term that like makes Islam immune to like criticism and makes people scared to talk. This is one thing. Another thing is that I think we should stop trying to give religion, any religion, privilege. Freedom of religion does not mean freedom of the religion not to be criticized. Like sometimes when I criticize Islam, some people say, but you know, we have religious freedom. And I said, yeah, but I'm just criticizing. The religious freedom does not mean that I cannot talk about the religion negatively or that I cannot criticize it. So some people are confused about that. And for me, to be honest, I don't see why religion should have its own special category. We have freedom of thought, the right to freedom of thought, and the right to freedom of expression and freedom of speech. This already is enough. But by putting like a certain privilege to religion, so if you have religion, okay, you're allowed a little bit more privilege than you would, then it's just like freedom of thought is allowed. That's ridiculous. And this is something that should not be in a secular society. And one more thing is that, I don't know how it is here in Norway, but in Sweden, there is state funding of some religious organizations.
The same.
Like, I don't understand. Like, this is not religious freedom. Like, religious freedom does not mean that you get tax money. That does not mean that you get public funding to promote your religion. Like, go say what you want. You're free to speak, say whatever kind of, like, the most horrible stuff that you want to say that I would disagree with, but I will protect your right to say it. But it's just I don't understand why do you have to get state funding? And this is very weird to happen in a secular state, I think. So there are still things to be done.
Yeah. I'm totally agree with you about freedom of religion. This I never understand. I say to my friends all the time that why we have exactly that word. We have freedom of thought.
Yeah.
You know why? I think we have to. Western countries, special because of they are the first that come with these old values. They have to talk about and change it, and it will happen in the future. I think. If I don't know, I will not be very optimistic, but isn't me only that feel every time we're talking about Islam, especially the left wing people, coming every time with other things.
About Christianity?
Yeah, other things. Colonization. Hitler had,
Excuses. Excuses.
Korsfarare for English. Crusaders.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what about?
Yeah.
What about?
And this is like
Is
pretty.
it me only? No.
Yeah, it's pretty strange. Also because they kind of like talk about like colonialism and all that, and say that this is what like started wars and conflicts, and they forget like what about the whole like Islamic conquest of this, like as if this area was forever peaceful before. Of course, the colonization is colonialism is bad and everything, but this was not the source of conflict that started all the conflict in the Middle East. And well, there was Islamic colonialism before. Why is that not an issue? Like North Africa, like all the Levant and all these places, they were
India.
not India. One of the most horrible massacres they happened like in India, and
No Indian jihad in the West.
yeah, but so yeah, it's they try all they can in order to deflect. They try to deflect like all the time. Like when I get into arguments with people, they're trying, you know. They think they are Jedis or something, and they're trying to like, and they try to all the time try to deflect away from the argument, away from criticizing Islam, and it's because they subscribe to an ideology. That's almost like a religion itself.
Yeah, and Islam is only not religion. This is society order, and this is the problem. I think if we can change mentality of Muslims to that, many of them have actually today, like just private belief, then it will not be problem there. You can believe whatever you want. It's not bother me.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I have some thoughts on that. Yeah, like I was one time in a panel or like listening to a panel discussion, and then one of the people was saying that one of the panelists was saying that we should move towards a reformation of Islam. And I said, I don't believe in reforming Islam. I believe in reforming Muslim communities. The way is not to try to do something with the religious scripture that is like, okay, maybe this we can live with, and try to have a diluted form of Islam. The solution is to try to set religion aside from public life, move towards secularism. And this is something that has happened before. Like people before, like in let's say in Egypt before the Islamic revival, before the 70s, and like in many other Muslim majority countries, they were much more liberal, but it's not because they had a different interpretation of Islam. It's just because Islam did not play much of a role in their life. And this is something that also a lot of people get confused about. They tell me, okay, but see, like Egypt, like in the before like the end of the 70s and 80s, they had a different Islam. They did not have a different Islam. People back then did not think that drinking alcohol is halal and having non-marital sex is halal. They just didn't care. Yeah. And this is something else.
So then what happened then?
Then the Islamic revival phenomena. Again, Islamic revival is not something that just happened for the first time first and the only time in 79. This is a recurring phenomena that has been happening throughout the history of Islam. Every now and then, Muslim societies move away from religion. They want to be more liberal, have more fun, or whatever. And then comes someone who says, okay, stop. We have gone too far. We have angered Allah. We need to get back to the fundamentals of religion. Open up the scriptures. Let's see what the classical scholars say. And we must go back to the way of Muhammad and the Sahaba, his companions. We must go back. It happens, and again, it keeps happening. It's like a volcano that keeps erupting. And this is why I think what I argue for is, like I believe, of course, in secularism more than I believe in the reformation of religion. But what I believe more than secularism is apostatizing, so to speak. Like for people to leave the religion behind. This is something that is happening or has been happening for a long time if you see the statistics, to Christianity in the West. If you, like, Pew Research, has published statistics on how many people are like leaving Christianity compared to people converting into Christianity. It's huge. Like the amount of people are leaving is much higher. And the religions have disappeared throughout history. It will take time, but I believe this is the only way to go, so that we stop this volcano from erupting again and again.
I think many people who are watching right now, they learned one very good argument with that you explain it right now, because of all time we are we saw the pictures of Afghanistan in 1960s, picture from Somalia, Iraq, Pakistan, Iran, of course, and Turkey. But everybody wondering, what's happened? And the left,
what's that different Islam they have?
And the left and the West, they love these pictures. They say, you see, they are good Muslims, and so like this can be, and like this, but it's not true. There's something is different in Islam. Because in the West, for example, when Christian people go too far from their religion, there is still some priest and some apologists promoting and say, we have to go back and we have to believe God and Jesus, and but not society not changing. It's something wrong in our countries. I recommending one book from Adonis. He's a Syrian philosopher. Vold og Islam in the Norwegian, and the Violence and Islam. This book is very good, and that you say is right. And before we close, because of Jeanette have to catch a fly. Yes, about some hours. So before we go to questions from you, last words. Have you something?
If I have a question?
No.
Last words.
Last words.
Last words.
If you do.
Do you think that ex-Muslims are getting the protection they need here in Sweden?
In Sweden. I don't know. I think the problem is also more social than... I think there's very, very little education on the problem, and very little awareness when it comes to like the situation for ex-Muslims or people who have left Islam, that the authorities wouldn't know how to deal with it exactly. It's similar to the problem with honor culture in a way. But in my case, like I remember one time I had like an exhibition where I was talking about like ex-Muslims, and also like I talked about my case and like ex-Muslims all around the world, and I put the threats that I get in the exhibition. I put them all over, and the threats and the positive messages that I get from ex-Muslims as well. And the municipality I was in, like when they knew about what I was going to do, they freaked out a little bit. They was like, okay, what are we going to do now? And there was a guard during the exhibition opening. So I don't know. I think we should break the stigma about being an ex-Muslim. Somebody asked me recently, why do you call yourself an ex-Muslim? You already left the religion. Why do you need to have the label? Because so long as there is stigma around leaving Islam, so long as people who leave Islam are being persecuted, you need to have this as a political statement, I would say. And that in itself also gives some degree of courage or inspiration to people who want to leave, for them to leave, and people who have left but are in the closet, maybe to come out. And when more and more people come out, then the stigma around all this will be broken, I hope.
Thank you. And
I'm just gonna finish this with this calling me ex-Muslim. I felt like I thought I was alone for a very long time. But choosing the label of ex-Muslim, so choosing the title and the honor of calling myself ex-Muslim, it means I'm not alone. It means none of those other ex-Muslims were ever alone. We just didn't know how to find one another, and now we do.
Yes, absolutely right. And we're getting many mails and messages from, like I said earlier, from many ex-Muslims, young and older ones, girl and man. And many of them don't want to show them up in public, but we are meeting with them and supporting them. So I think, in the West, we think we need balance when we talk about Islam. We had the religious ones all the time there. And we need from inside and give courage to others to make a balance. Many ex-Muslims, activists in all around the world, risking their lives. They are imprisoned. Many of them is killed. So I wish Norway, a country which gives the Nobel Peace Prize, I wish they could help to some other activists like Raif Badawi. Bring him.
Get him out of there.
Because no country can manage to stop immigration. Or they can put down a little bit, but nobody is closing the borders. And they will never do that. Then help them. Canada, for example, even it shocked me. They are trying to bring Raif Badawi out of prison to Canada. Have you heard that? And it's a good thing. So, and we have to support ex-Muslims. So, before we're closing, I want to say thank you to Fritt Ord, the organization Fritt Ord. You will talk. and I invite you, everyone, to join us. You don't need to convert to Islam and
then leave it.
and left it to be member of ex-Muslims of Norway.
Or actually, it's very easy. Maybe we can just do it like
Yeah.
a mass conversion right now. You can just say like, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, just 2 shahadas in Islam, and now you've become a Muslim, and then you can leave it right away.
Have a
and then
beer.
we're all a big happy family.
So support us. We will never give up in any way. If I'm just alone, or we are only just we, and we are not, we will go on with our page, Facebook page. I think the only Norwegian organization's Facebook page which have 36 countries, many thousands following. I think we are only, because we are going with English a little bit, and little Norwegians, but we have, and every country I will show one day. I will make one article and show how many people from India, how many people in Germany, which one is the first country following us and supporting us. It's incredible. And India is number 2.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Why India is number 2?
Yeah. But
Okay.
I just want to add like one last thing. That same imam that I was talking about in Sweden, in the interview, he said that he does not want the phenomenon of ex-Muslims to be normalized, or that like people who leave Islam, that be something that we normalize in the society. And this is another reason why it's very important to carry the label, because this is something that needs to be normalized, leaving Islam.
So my friends, you hear me from many now, right? This is live streaming right now. So if you don't believe this desert ideology, don't call yourself Muslim. Don't waste your time. But you can believe, you have right to believe whatever you want. If you want to believe one stone, you can believe this. But not impose this to your children, your wife, your community, your country. Then I love you. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming.
Thank
It was
you
a pleasure for us. And I
Same
hope
for
we
me.
will see you here again. It's
I hope so.
fantastic to talk with you. And Janet, have you something to say at the end? Because I just felt you should say something. No.
It's like, I just feel like saying in the end that we are against rage and we are against the violence. I just want to make it very clear, because those are the things we are arguing to get rid of. We do want to have arguments. We are not in any case trying to provoke physical reactions towards any group at all. Because someone is going to blame us for this on the internet, so just to have it said.
Yeah, and that we make a distinction between Islam and Muslims, and that we are against like anti-Muslim bigotry or Muslim hate, of course. Yeah.
It's nothing about people.
It's criticizing ideas.
Yeah.
You have to say it every
Okay.
time.
Okay, just last word, because this is very important, and you will get the first word.
We're having like so many last words today.
But
I've got to go.
okay, but this is very important. You know, the most important thing is they say Muslim, and they generalizing, when the guy, Norwegian guy, accused me to promoting hatred, he said, Muslims, you doing hatred against Muslims. And I said to him, is that ISIS, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, etc., etc., are they including in your term Muslims? If it is, I hate them. Do you hate ISIS? I ask him. And they are Muslims. And he generalizing. He say Muslims. Who are Muslims? We have to we have to have debate about Muslim word. I don't mean the people, okay? Word Muslim.
Next time.
Yeah, next time. Next seminar. And I hope you will come there.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yes, and please there. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, it's okay?
Yeah?
Thank you very much. First, I have to introduce myself. I'm very happy to be here accidentally because I was in some other seminar before. My name is Perviz Kasai. I'm from Persia, Iran. So, and luckily, my father and all family were not believing in Islam, so I became a humanist from the childhood. That was a good privilege. But my mother was religious, but very mild and very democratic and secular. So I'm here in Norway because I was a diplomat here in the embassy here. I was the chargé d'affaires, ambassador, acting ambassador. And after the revolution, which was confiscated by mullahs and Khomeini, I defected my embassy here and I joined against the regime. But I'm also a member of the Labour Party of Norway and the central board member of the International Forum of the Arbeider Party, we call it, Social Democrat in Sweden. So I was very impressed really by you, and we need you. The world needs you, people. Because if we go through the religious history, all these three religions, Christianity, Judaism before, and Islam, they are copying each other, actually. And then there are many wars and things like the Adam and Eve giving the biggest guilt to the woman from the beginning with this philosophy of blaming women for everything. So that is something that has gone through the history. But when we look at the Christianity and also to the West, that is my point that I hope to make it very brief. They have gone through a process. One was when René Descartes said, "Je doute, donc je suis." I doubt, therefore I exist. And that was great in the history of Europe. So this thing is lacking in Islam. As you say, when you are saying something, I'm doubting you, I'm doubting your religion, they label you as whatever. And they want to kill you, irtidad and all these things that they have it. Also, this law in Iran and also international law in France. And I was a diplomat for about 15 years. So there were two solutions in order to cope up with this damn religious fanaticism. One was, as I told you, this René Descartes and agnosticism and the people who stood against God and things. And the other one was people like, for example, Martin Luther. I'm not saying about Martin Luther afterward, what happened to the others. The kings in the name of Luther, they killed and massacred. But he himself, as a person, stood against the Pope in Rome and said, and that is a good thing. We have to encourage really people, secularist Muslims, in interpreting Islam in whatever. Because the religions, as you know, they have a lot of controversies in Islam. In the book, I read Quran because I was studying law. And in one hand says, La ikraha fi din, that means there is no compulsion in it. And the other says, Tabbat yadu Abi Lahab, God will cut the hand of Abi Lahab. So, let these philosophers, like, for example, Rumi, like, for example, Abul Kalam Azad, like, for example, Iqbal Lahori in Pakistan, let them fight against each other. Philosophically, yes, I think we have to encourage them because at one stage, Rumi, I think, in my opinion, Rumi is the biggest philosopher of the East. He said, I took the core of Islam and the rest, I threw it like a watermelon skin to the donkeys. And he was pointing to the mullahs. But I am telling you, as my conclusion, that your job is much more effective because you are not a wishy-washy organization to just try to cope up with the weather of the day and what the opinion, what the thing people are. You are standing. You are people like René Descartes. You are saying, je doute dans je suis. And I commend you and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And is there any
Questions, anybody?
questions or comments?
Something? No?
Please.
My name is Louis Baumanns, and I got interested in this topic also because I, a long time ago, I studied Arabic, and I noticed how important the role of religion is in the Middle East. And about religion, since I'm not a religious believer myself, I think the only way for me to understand is that it is very important for personal identity. And that's, for me, also explain why people react so strongly if you criticize Islam, because it's so closely related to their identity. And this has another aspect in the West where religious identity is knitted together with ethnical identity. So if you are from like an Arab country or Turkey, and you live in the West, and then you leave Islam, then you're also leaving or it's perceived as you leave your family and your ethnic group. So in that sense, it's a bit different than the situation in Muslim majority countries. Maybe, yeah, we can have some understanding for that. Omar mentioned the word dialogue, and what I was wondering is, can there be an organization of ex-Muslims that is capable of having a dialogue with some organizations of Muslims? So, we all know that there are also all kinds of Muslims. I mean, I take that as people who define themselves. I accept whatever they want to. Maybe I'm a Christian because I like to listen to Christian music and so. And some of them some Muslims also are to me, very reasonable, rational people, even though they identify themselves Muslims. So, I feel that ex-Muslims of Norway often is not finding the right tone to engage in this dialogue with people who are still identify as Muslims, and how can we get this into?
Good question.
Yeah,
or maybe I was thinking of a parallel ex-Muslim organization that is better capable of doing this. Yeah.
And can you please explain a little bit about what you mean with dialogue? To see if you can agree on certain principles. So there will be religious and also believing people who acknowledge that religion should be voluntary. So you really have to have this intention, this niyyah, and it has to be. I think also the Council of Mosques in Norway, at least formally, acknowledge that religion should be voluntary, and then try and build on this thought.
I have maybe some thoughts on the first part of the. I think it's very problematic and unhelpful when people identify so much with an idea that it becomes a part of who they are, that they perceive the criticism of this idea as an attack on themselves. This is not, and this should not be the responsibility when it comes to that should not be laid upon the person who's criticizing the idea. It should be laid on the person who has made this idea himself. You should have like distance from these ideas in order to be able to engage in their in dialogue on them or on criticism about these ideas. If you begin dialogue already with someone who views these ideas themselves, the very idea of criticizing this idea is already an attack on them. You can have no dialogue. So,
And can I say, I love dialogue. But the problem is, what's mean dialogue? Like, I agree with you. But like in Norway, only the FRP, Oslo, invite ex-Muslims of Norway and the Islamnet, for example, Islamnet, to the debate. And they didn't come. So I have to give a lecture. And I have been in Ahmadiyya Mosque and ask question, talk with them, go in the mosque. In my life, first time in Norway, only mosque I have been. So we are not against dialogue, but we don't know what's mean dialogue. But I mean is dialogue have to be debate. Because we saying that something's wrong with this religion. And we have right to say that. And if they mean we are in wrong way and we are lying or we are promoting hatred, they have to contact us. For example, today, or many ask us, why you don't have Muslims in your panel? We had maybe more than 12 seminars. I said, because we have no drift study. This means we have no financial support from state for organization. We asking for seminars, and it's the time that our voices will come out first. Because we know they have been everywhere. I have seen the picture of imams and state ministers sitting and talking. I have seen in debate on the national TV. They are all the time, Islamnet, Islamsråd Norge, Islam. But they don't invite us. How we can have dialogue? With who? We are here now with the little financial support. We are making our voice come out, and they can hear us. They are hearing us. They are following us. And we can meet with them. We don't hate them, but we are... Why it's so important to hurting feelings of people, very important than freedom of speech. And when we're talking only about Islam, and this make almost impossible dialogue, because of they get hurt. Feelings them hurting. We are hurting them. When I say, and even we don't say, I hate Islam, but it has to be my right to say. If I will say, I hate Islam, we have to make dialogue like Martin Luther King. I don't know how he did. You are Christian. How he did? He debated.
But
he didn't go and drink go and drink and coffee and take a picture. We saw many mullahs with the Jewish community leaders. What's the name? This not mullah, but not imam, but rabbi. In the Middle East, even we see many pictures. They meet imam and rabbis and priests and take one picture with state minister and dialogue meeting. Nothing hatred there.
So if you could get this kind of pictures with Muslim leaders and ex-Muslims, it helps to normalize.
I'm open with it. I'm open with that, but I don't believe this is dialogue. So.
I add one thing, because this is my own experience. These people, they want to have dialogue with you. They call you najis.
Yeah.
That means you are not
dirty.
Even they cannot shake hand with you.
No, I can.
They have a fatwa that you are najis. That means dirty.
Yeah, but I can have.
How could you have a dialogue with them?
But it's
a continuum of extremism.
Yes. And it was very good you asked this, because it's good, and I'm saying here right now, welcome, everyone. We are not against dialogue.
I just want to add this as an answer from my side. The problem we have right now is the fact that the only reason people keep saying Islam is the religion of peace is because criticizing is fatal. And what Islam really needs to be taught through this intelligent conversation that a debate is that offense is not given, it's taken. They take offense constantly. If they stop and have a rational conversation instead of just throwing blame on everyone else, we love to talk to them.
And we are not, this is, they have to contact us. I mean that. We can contact too, but why they don't do that? Why?
We don't say that they should be killed for believing what they do.
Then one other thing that I didn't make it up myself, but I read it as a site from Amin Malouf. That part of my identity, which I feel is most under threat. That's the part of my identity that's become stronger and I identify with most. So there's the kind of paradox that we have this need of criticizing this religious force, this forced religion, but at the same time it will also provoke a reaction, and people will make all this. There's a lot of criticism of Islam for decades.
Yes, but what they call them,
and for some people it will make them more religious.
You know, I just
more identifying, maybe not practicing.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to mention the man I love to mention. One Iranian man I know, I think maybe you know. His name is Ali Sina, and he's now Christian, I think. But he have been ex-Muslim. He's the first ex-Muslim in public in 25 years. But he's never been allowed to come in public. He hiding himself. His name is Ali Sina. Just go to the www.faithfreedom.org. This website have been created in 1990s, and he called himself first time ex-Muslim. And he write books. He had dialogues with the biggest mullahs in Pakistan, in Egypt, Al-Azhar, Saudi Arabia, from the mail. So you can read everything. And this man is it's not because of Muslims he's not known. Because of Western people. They put him in the box as the biggest racist Islam and Muslim hater. This is Ali Sina. And he's writing his Twitter, I'm the biggest Muslim hater. He say this because he's angry. It's just satire. I'm the biggest Muslim haters, Islam haters, and Mossad agent and CIA recruits. Because he get this accusation every time. Like you say, in the decades, they're criticizing Islam. But what happens? Nobody, if you want to be called racist, yes, you can criticize, and they did it all the time. And who want this? Who want to be called as racist just because of criticizing and religion? This is the problem. So we have to keep going.
Yeah, but I think that if we are discussing with Muslims who keep calling us racist,
and
we are going to get away with the winners of the debate. Because while they don't know how to actually protect their own views, we are very good at it because we have been doing this critical thought and we have been practicing these dialogues a lot more than them. So,
and I never said no to if some Muslim community leaders or organizations invite ex-Muslims to seminar or debate. I never. It didn't happen. If it happened one day, I promise we will be there.
Yeah.
It's about that we will not use our little money to promote their ideology here.
I want to have like a debate with with some imams, for example, who want to encourage same-sex marriage in mosques. That would be a very good debate to have, for example.
Then you have to wait.
That would be, but it will be a very short one, I think, because they will just say, "No, this is absolutely nuts."
I have this sketch came to mind from Egypt television. An atheist that comes into the studio and he is asked what he believes in and doesn't he believe in God, and he says there is no proof that God exists, and they call him psychologically damaged and he should go to a doctor and that kind of treatment. And even though they smile in front of the TV when they are in Europe, that's how they treat you behind scenes. Why would I go and hug people that I left because they wanted to get rid of me?
Yeah. Yes, please.
So a lot of thoughts come to mind. It's a good question, though.
When do you have to leave?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's first of all, I want to thank for this nice seminar. Nice to have someone from Sweden here. I lived in Sweden for 4 years, so I tried to follow the debate in Sweden, and it's not very good, as I can see it.
It's been getting a bit better.
Yeah, But regarding dialogue here with Muslims, I also read the Quran, most of the Hadiths, read a lot of good historians. I will recommend Halvor Kjønn to everyone. Halvor Kjønn, you have.
Halvor Kjønn,
yeah,
yeah,
you have,
yeah.
have him here. It's probably the first book you should read if you're a Norwegian, and maybe read the Quran afterwards. That's my advice. But it's. I also have a lot of Muslim friends, very good friends, colleagues, which I respect a lot. But it's when you discuss what's in the Quran and you discuss Islam, it's very difficult to discuss with people that think you are sick. When they call you Islamophobe, it's a diagnosis, actually. That's it's the first. I've been politically active in the 80s, and this is something new that the opponents are trying to diagnose you. And I'm also thinking about what we are, because if you have people like us, me, that read the sources, the Quran, the Hadiths, and really are curious people, I want to know something. We are diagnosed, and the good people that know nothing consider themselves over us. That's how long will it last before a lot of people start to read the Quran and read the sources? So I'm also been in marketing sales for 20 years, and I know a lot about the marketing techniques. So I'm trying to use some my old marketing technique just to open the door. But even then, it's difficult. So that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was the first time I decided to tell my story, it was because people wouldn't believe Hege Storhaug, because she went to Pakistan. She wrote a book about her travel among Pakistani women, Muslim women, and their lives. And till this very day, if I meet a stranger and start talking about stuff, and I mention Hege Storhaug, and they say she's a racist, because that's what the television wants you to believe. So, of course, the propaganda is gonna keep going, and this movement of ex-Muslims and rational thinking, it's gonna take time, but we can't give up. Exactly, we can't stop.
Last question, but short, please. Very short. Yes, here. And until she coming there, I have to thank you for recommending Halvor Kjønn's book. It's very important. It's the Norwegian translation from Sirat to the Norwegian, Ibn Ishaq. And this book, nobody can read whole book, because of it's telling the name, who said to who said to who, one page and talking. But Halvor Kjønn make it very short, and if you want to know about Muhammad, you have to buy and read about Muhammad.
3 things, and I'll try to be short. One about Islam and identity. And our friend Walid Al-Kubaisi, who's not here today, he said that he has been talking a lot about that, saying that if you're a European, there are so many ways to have a European identity. You can have it through sports, you can have it through literature, through culture, through religion, through nature, through whatever, whereas Islam is... the Muslims have only that one identity, and I've seen it myself. People who are rather secular Muslims, the minute Walid has been talking to say Islam should be in the personal sphere, they would say, is there no place for Islam in society if it cannot, they feel hurt by criticizing because they don't have another identity. That's the one. And then there's another one. You said an argument, Omar said an argument about the wars always coming back in the history of Islam.
Like a volcano.
I like the volcano image, and since I'll be short, I won't paint it out. but what can you say about Europe? I mean, with World War I and World War II, and I mean, it's not very. I mean, Europe has its own merit list, curriculum about that. But then there's one thing that I think we are not discussing in this sphere, and which I think should be taken up. And it's somehow a blind point, and it has to do with stolthetskultur, the culture of pride. And because when you take the prideless girls that I admire a lot, that I think it's the skamløse jentene, how do you say, shameless girls? Yes, they're even we say that the culture of pride. For me, I think it's a blind point in the European understanding of the other, and vice versa. We think that the pride culture of Islam today was a pride culture that was in Europe before. And there's a lot we can recognize, like the pride of the soldier, the man's pride. There's a lot of pride elements that we can recognize and that we can say have been part of our identity, and some have gone into history and some are still there and things. But there's one pride element. I'm going to stay only one more minute. It's very hard to talk when somebody's talking there.
Please.
It's one element of pride that has never been in Europe. You know, you have in Norway also, or in Europe, you have the element that a daughter can marry somebody of much lower status, so she brings shame on the family.
Like honor culture.
That has been in Europe, as in your culture. The part that has not been in Europe ever, and I've discussed it with a professor of history and law of the medievals, is that you can restore pride by killing that person. You know, in Europe also you kill women, you bang them in the head and you're furious and things. So it's not that killing women is special to anyone.
But if we can get to the part of the question.
The point is that to restore pride, you can kill that woman. That is non-existent in European history. And I think to identify the pride culture as not is a part of what the work that should be done in groups like you and like this group. And there is a distinct difference on a very, very special, important point. The point of restoring pride by killing a woman, or the point of, if in Europe you killed the woman who put shame on the family, you put more shame on the family. They even kill each other. So that's the very...
Well, it's opposite in our countries.
So that's a point where we are really very different. Okay. And I think that should be also part of the discussion.
Thank you.
I have actually given an interview to Human Rights Service. It's on their YouTube channel, which explains this very detailed, and I have also written some articles to even more detail it. The pride, it's not pride, it's a reputation. The reputation of the family who is participating in a culture of arranged marriage in which they are obligated to produce virgins, boys and girls, but mostly the most pressure is on girls. If the family cannot produce a virgin kid, a virgin girl, on the market of arranged marriage, then that family loses their reputation and no one will want to do business with them. So they kill the damaged product that has caused them a bad reputation to establish how serious they are about producing this untouched new product that is called honor. It's business, a trade of children.
And I will quickly just, I think the thing with identity, we've already discussed somewhat the importance of separating ideas from identity. But I will comment on the idea of, it was Islamic revival, not wars, that I was talking about, like the revival of religious purity. so to speak. So that leads to religious conservatism with all the values that are in contrast with the values of equality and liberal democracy. But yes, of course, like Europe has had its problems when it comes to world wars and stuff, but it's actually, there are similarities in a way. These are ideologies that are very tribal in nature, religion and nationalism. They both lead to like a hostility to the people who are outside of the group. And both have elements of supremacy, religious supremacy and national supremacy, and all that is likely to lead to conflict.
Okay, today I was a bookshop, and I think which book we can buy to one anti-theist in English, and very easy to find, because it's not too many religious criticizing books in English in Norway in the bookshops. Then I hope you didn't read Richard Dawkins' The God Delusion in English.
Thank you very much.
And a souvenir from Oslo. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. And thank you to all. Thank you. You can put it if you want.
You thought about the bag, that's good. You thought about the bag as well, that's good.